All right, so just to start off, what do you want to get out of this game at Creighton?
Yeah, I think, more than anything, just, having somebody else guard, what we're trying to do, just like we're going to, give them a different look than what they're trying to do, and but also get into a real game environment. I think that helps a lot of your young guys that haven't been, in that position before, is that they get to go into that before, we go to Marquette. I think that's our first road game, right?
Yeah.
I think that's the most important thing, is to kind of get through that nervousness or kind of those jitters when you go on the road and you play in front of a packed house. And that's what, last year against Arkansas, that really helped us. We played without Zach in the first half, which was good. We needed to have some experience of playing without him, in case he got into foul trouble, in case he got hurt. So that game did that. Being on the road and getting calls, they think, like, my refereeing's bad in practice. And now they go and they see it firsthand, because you tell them, like, hey, this is how things are and this is how things get called, and it's worse on the road. And that's the way it is. And it's really bad for people that come off the bench, because those guys get called for everything. The guys that start don't get called for as much. So just those type of experiences, I think, is going to be really good. Creighton is a very good offensive team. They run a lot of different things. They lost, a couple key pieces, but he's always done a great job in reloading and playing to their strengths. So, like, they score the ball. You make mistakes, they're going to, run it to the other end and score it. Like, that's the way they are. But there's stuff on out of bounds, side out of bounds, sets, like, just a lot of stuff. And we're the same way, right? So, like, I think it's going to really work for both of us, as, we kind of not necessarily prepare for them, but just experience, competing against them.
You've spent this whole preseason basically mixing and matching lineups. Where have you landed?
I haven't really landed anywhere. I like, obviously, Braden Fletch and Trey Kaufman-Wren will start. I like a lot of different looks, but it kind of depends on us, kind of depends on our team, depends on our opponent at times. So, but we'll see. We'll see how things go. There isn't a great deal of separation on our front line. There's a little bit, but not a great deal. You could go a lot of different ways. It's not anything clear cut. Whereas the backcourt for us, it helps the guys that I mentioned if you got another ball handler in there. Very similar to Lance Jones, right? Like, when you have another guy that can handle the basketball, that can go guard a point guard too, because we'll kind of cross match up things with Braden. That piece of it really helps those guys.
Do you wish there was more lineup certainty, or are you kind of enjoying, to some extent, like, the process of figuring out how you get to use a variety of?
Yeah, I don't know. I'd rather have certainty.
That's Zakidi, I know.
No, I'd rather just have certainty in terms of, like, guys, whatever, because, when you make, you're forcing someone to make a decision, and it's got to be pretty close to a tie, right? Or you wouldn't have to make that decision. When it's clear cut, there's no decision. So, yeah, I would prefer it to be the other way. But that's part of it. You're kind of, at that point, you're kind of picking. You're like, hey, he deserves it, he deserves it, he doesn't deserve it, he doesn't deserve it. Like, however you want to look at it, it's like, it's close, right? And so, like, now, the thing that you don't like is when it's not, you don't feel like it's concrete. Like, I felt like our starting lineup last year, like, you could put Mason in there. He actually played more minutes than Trey. So you're talking about 6 guys, right? That, then obviously people came off the bench, but their minutes didn't get close to those other guys, where Mason got our 5th most minutes on our team. So I think that piece of it for us is, we'll just kind of wait and see.
What's the feature of this matchup with Creighton, where you guys get to see a All-American center without yours for the first time in a long time?
Yeah, well, we have players also, so I think that's the one thing that everybody relates to a season or the upcoming season is the past season. Whereas, like, I always tell people, like, we've won 4 out of the last 8 Big Ten championships. Zach Edey was with us for half of them. He's a great player. He's a National Player of the Year, but we won before he was here. So sometimes that gets lost in the weeds, because you don't sit back and say, okay, now what are we going to do without Zach? you just prepare for the next season with the people that you have. Like you don't look in the rearview mirror on those type of things. But we recruited Ryan. He's a very talented player. Very has really done some good things offensively. Obviously, he's been very consistent defensively. He's the best defender in that league for 3 straight years, and probably will be for 4 years. But yeah, you got to be careful. Like you got to understand with guys like that, you got to get to their body. You got to be careful challenging him when he's just sitting there waiting on you. And guys that can block shots like that, you just have to be leery of them and make good decisions.
You're going to have redshirt decisions to make at some point. Will you play everybody Saturday?
It's a good question. You guys are asking too many questions.
Like 5.
I don't think I'm playing 13 people. No, I don't believe so. But we'll kind of see how the game unfolds. Because when you play 13 people, like, are you really helping? Like sometimes guys will play like 4 guys at the center position, and everybody plays around 10 minutes. Like whereas now, if you play 2 to 3 of them, don't you get more from those people? Like it's almost like you don't even get anything. I always say that about players when they get, how do you expect them to be consistent when they get inconsistent minutes, right? So you say, well, I'll play this guy in this lineup or play that guy in that lineup, but are they in a good headspace when they play? Like I always worry about that piece of it, but whereas in the NBA, I think it's different because they are professionals and they are older. They all have different experiences and they understand, like, I might not play these 2 or 3 games, but now this game I'm going to play, and if I do play well, that'll really help me, kind of process it.
Do you have any decisions yet on that?
I have not.
Do you have an idea in your mind yet how much you'll play the small lineup with Trey?
Yeah, I'm definitely going to play it. I don't know how much. Definitely going to play it. So I've put Cam with that group that I mentioned of those 3 guys in practice, and then kept it at 6 guys. So it forces them to, when they go that way, he can get there and play some 3 and some 4. So I like it offensively. I don't know how much I want to like it defensively is the question, right? And you got some guys that when you go big, you got to, that's got to help you rebound-wise. And so sometimes people don't understand that it doesn't always equate to that. Because on paper and in theory it should, but sometimes it just doesn't. And so if we're going to be bigger, well, we got to be better on the glass. We got to be better at rim protecting. Now that's our trade, right? And so if we go smaller, now we got to do a better job of containing the dribble. We got to do a better job of keeping the ball out of the paint, and so people aren't getting the ball in operating areas. And then we got to be able to do a good job, rebounding the basketball too. So, it doesn't always have to be a trade-off, but sometimes it is a trade-off. Like you just became better offensively, but you're not as good defensively, or you're not as good on the glass. I'm not saying that's true. I'm just saying that where it could land, and it's hard to gauge because we just play against ourselves. So now you go play 1 game, you're like, oh, this isn't going to work. Well, you don't have enough data, right? Like you want more data, but you also, as you get into games that count, you don't want your experiment sometimes to lead to a loss. You want to make sure that you win games and you're playing to your strengths. And so I know offensively that'll be a strength. I don't question that. And when you put skill with Braden, and then you let Trey Kaufman kind of maneuver and go against bigger people, his quickness and his ability to spin and do different things causes problems.
With Cam, is it just physical attributes and skills that make him a good fit there? Or was there something beyond that you needed to?
Well, he's going to stretch the defense like Mason can, his ability to shoot. That's what we're really looking for. We're looking for more spacing. And so now you can stick him in a corner, and they really got a decision to make to where he can come behind plays and see bigger people are going to migrate to the rim a lot more. And so they just do. So now if he has that traditional power forward like Trey Kaufman, can he guard that player at the other end? Because he can guard wings. That's not the issue. But when he gets against a bigger guy, can he guard those guys? Can he keep them off the glass? But offensively, he's fine. It fits into what we run and how we play. So But we'll see. We did it last year. We just we don't want to take that weapon away from us to where like Trey gave us a guy that can post and score with Zach. And now Mason gave us that guy that could ultimately stretch the defense. He shot 48% from three, but I think Cam can be able to do some of that and help us offensively. But what's the trade again, right?
Where's Will at mentality-wise? Just I know he's obviously putting a lot of pressure on himself. He's got this opportunity in front of him,
right?
And that's been an area for him to work on.
Yeah, he needs to play. Like, he needs to get out there. You wish you could just go out there and he could play 30 minutes, right? Because he needs that type of experience. But Daniel needs that type of experience too. And so, like, all those guys, like all the guys we just mentioned, they all need to play that much and kind of work through things. And that's a hard thing, right? But he's been our most physical post. We got to get him to be physical without fouling, and more than anything, and just like move to the next play. You do well, like move to the next play. You make it, you have a breakdown, move to the next play, and I think that's going to be important for him.
How ready is Jakari?
He's played well. He's given us that other ball handler. He's given us that defender, another guy that can stretch the defense. He can make plays off the dribble. Him and CJ's really helped us. They help us defensively, help us put pressure on the ball, pick up the ball, allows Braden and they give us the most. Those two give us the most versatility playing along with Fletch and him because of that extra ball handler more than anything, extra defender.
You've had some other guys come in and be really good defensive guards here, and a lot of times part of their story is they didn't come here as good defensive guards. Raphael was kind of that way.
Yep.
Dakota kind of talked about being the same way. Yep. Is there a common denominator for the guys who can show up as freshmen and hang defensively the way these guys are?
Yeah, well, CJ was the defensive player, of the year in his conference. Jakari's, always been able to defend. He's always given that time. Jakari's always done a good job, kind of like Chad Austin, former player. He just kind of takes what the defense gives him. He could be in a game and he could pass a lot and not take very many shots, or he could dominate the ball and take a lot of shots. So, like, in high school, he played, and did a lot of things for his high school team and his AAU team. So he fits in. He fits in for the thing, and he's played well. He's been very consistent.